Hi, and welcome back to the lecture series on being human. First of all, I'd like to let you know I've caught up on all of Jeff and Dr. Maswick's new videos. They are really impressive. I strongly recommend you go and check them out. They've both upped their game. They started to add graphics to their videos, some editing. They have some fade in and fade out music. I'm happy to say I am also upping my game. I'm wearing a clean collared shirt today. My socks match my belt, and my socks match each other today. So I'm really trying to up my game to keep up with Dr. Ev and Jeff. Today I want to talk a little bit about the past. I want to talk a little bit about how we experience the past. I have people coming to me and like, well, I need to find a way to make peace with my past, or get past my past, or get over the things that have happened in the past. And I will tell them, well, you have a better chance of making peace with Bigfoot, because Bigfoot actually exists. How I know Bigfoot exists, that's an entirely different video we won't get into today. But you're trying to make peace with something that no longer exists. And I think that's where we get ourselves into trouble. Because think about it for a minute. If you break it down, how do you experience your past? Your past is only available in one place. It's only available as thought that you've brought forward through time. And knowing that your past doesn't exist anywhere other than in thought, you're not trying to make peace with the past. You're actually trying to make peace with your thinking about the past. And putting that barrier or that layer in between you and your past, I think, is incredibly helpful once you start to understand it and you start to see it for yourself. You're not actually trying to manage the past or fix the past or get over the past. You're actually trying to manage your thinking about the past. And I have all kinds of things in my past that will come up and I will experience them like they're real and important and urgent in the moment, but they're not actually there. In fact, everything that's ever happened to you, everything in your past up until this moment is only accessible in one way, is always only accessible as thought. Think about your favorite teacher from high school. Can you picture them? Can you picture where you sat in the classroom? Do you know who you sat next to? Can you picture being in that classroom? I can. It was Dr. Martin. He was an English lit teacher. I remember I sat next to Jimmy Shea. None of that exists today. Dr. Martin, he's probably in his 90s. He's probably not teaching anymore. Jimmy Shea, as last I knew, he was running a car dealership in Lawrence. In fact, they tore down that high school, the high school I went to, and they built a new one. So none of that exists anywhere other than in my head. None of that is in the present moment. That is just a story I am retelling myself. And my story was probably different than your story. Unless we took the same English lit class together and you sat on the other side of Jimmy Shea, but that would be a very strange coincidence. But we start to see that we're not actually experiencing the past. We're experiencing thought that we've brought forward through time. And being able to disconnect ourselves from that and being able to see that as separate, I think goes a long way in finding a place of peace and acceptance with things that are no longer here. You are not experiencing the past. You're experiencing a book that you are rereading, a movie that you are rewatching. Your past cannot exist in the present. And the only way we experience the past is as thoughts. So instead of trying to make peace with your past or overcome it or somehow find acceptance around it, realize that it doesn't exist. It's an illusion. It is a mirage. It is a temporary, fleeting illusion, creative thought in the moment. And how do you make peace with a mirage? How do you overcome an illusion? You don't. You understand the nature of it. I have people who have come to me with mistakes they've made in the past, and they're trying to overcome those mistakes. Now, it's interesting because just the fact that they see it as a mistake must mean they've learned their lesson. They've got all kinds of guilt and shame about things that they've done, but the fact they feel guilt and shame must mean they've already learned their lesson. They are wiser. They've figured something out. They see the world differently. And if you didn't see it as a mistake, you wouldn't feel guilt. So in a way, guilt's already done its job. It's already run its course. It's already put you back on track. Guilt plays one role in our lives. When there's something that we're up to that doesn't match up with our values or our morals or how we want to be in the world, that behavior causes guilt. And that guilt is there to put us back on track so we can change our behaviors in a way that makes us feel good about it. But the moment we change our behaviors, that guilt no longer belongs to us. It's no longer ours. So getting upset about something you used to do or you did a long time ago that you now know better doesn't make a lot of sense. In fact, there was an innocence to it, because if you saw it as wrong at the time, if you saw the mistake at the time, you would have handled it differently. Today, knowing what you know, you would handle it differently. So getting upset with yourself for things you used to do is kind of like getting mad at a 4-year-old for not understanding trigonometry. Of course a 4-year-old doesn't understand trigonometry. You didn't understand that you were exhibiting a behavior that you would regret in the future at the time. At the time, there was an innocence to it. At the time, you were doing the best that you could, given the circumstances and the thinking that occurred to you in that moment. So in that way, not only are you innocent in the past, you are always only experiencing the past as thought you've brought forward through time. Now what I want you to do is I want to do an experiment with you. I want you to do this experiment. Next time you go for a ride, you get in your car, what I want you to do is I want you to paint the windshield black, right? And just use the rearview mirror to drive. Now don't actually do this. This is a horrible idea. You're going to crash before you even leave your driveway. See, there's a reason the windshield's so big and the rearview mirror is so small. Most of the information that you need to safely navigate to where you need to go, it's usually outside the windshield. It's usually right in front of you. It's not behind you. In fact, my last car, the rearview wind mirror, it fell off. It fell off and I could drive around just fine. I didn't actually need it until I needed a state inspection sticker, and then, the state really felt I needed one, so I needed to get it put back up. But what I'm pointing to is the fact that most of the information that we need to safely navigate to where we need to go is right in front of us. It's not behind us. So this is a terrible way to drive a car. And it's a horrible way to navigate life. Now, if we start to see the past has less and less there for us, we start to see the past as a fleeting illusion that we are creating in the moment. We tend to live more in the present. We tend to see what's right in front of us, and we tend not to check the rearview mirrors every 5 seconds. You keep looking in the rearview mirror, you're going to miss what's right in front of you. You're not going that way. Stop looking that way. So we start to see that we have this misunderstanding of the past and what we're trying to manage and figure out. And if you figure out a way to change your past with your thinking today, please let me know. If I could do that, I would be much richer than I am today, and I'd have one less tattoo that I don't want to talk about. But there's no way to think your way into a better past. So exploring your past in a deep, meaningful way doesn't make as much sense once you understand the illusion that the past really is, and the fact that things that you've done in the past aren't really you today. In fact, you know better. In fact, the fact that you see it as a mistake must mean in some way you have learned from the mistake, and the mistake has served this purpose, and you're allowed to let go of it. I've had people tell me, well, Chris, people who do not remember the past are doomed to repeat it. To which I say, if you have a way of forgetting the dumbest things you've ever done, your biggest embarrassments and mistakes and regrets, please let me know. I've been trying. It's really hard. They keep coming up for me. It's not something I can actually forget. So I trust that they'll be there if I need them again. Even if I don't keep them front and center, even if I don't keep replaying them in my head over and over again. So I used to have this nasty habit of rethinking and refeeling and re-experiencing the worst parts of my life. I was really good at it. It's kind of like it was my job. I was really in depth at it. I could do it in great detail. But today, with this understanding, of how I experienced the past, I tend not to do that as much. Every once in a while, I'll forget that I'm only experiencing thought, and I'll rethink and refeel and re-experience something, but usually pretty quickly it occurs to me that none of that's happening in this moment. None of that is real in this moment. Don't get me wrong, the things from your past were real. They weren't illusions, they weren't thought at one point. But today, in this moment, the only way that you can experience the past is as a story you are retelling, an illusion that you are recreating, as thought that you brought forward through time. And when you're not afraid of your thinking, you're not afraid of your past. And there's nothing to make peace with. There's nothing to move past. There's nothing left to let go. So as we start to see the past in a different way, we start to see the way that we experience the past as thought brought forward through time. We stop trying to manage the past. We stop trying to think our way into a better past. We stop trying to make peace with the past. We try to make peace with the present. We try to make peace with the thinking that's occurring to us in the moment. And this is the only moment that exists. You can't get over the past or make peace with the past because the past isn't real in this moment. So maybe if we understood how the human operating system creates the past for us, and we understood that we are not living in the feeling of the past, rather we're living in the feeling of our thinking about the past, well, I think we might be able to find that peace and acceptance and be able to move on from things with a little bit more ease and a little bit more grace. And stop blaming yourself for things that you already know you did wrong. There's plenty of things that you will do wrong again, and that's okay. So instead of rethinking and refeeling and re-experiencing your worst mistakes, realize that the only time that exists, the only time that you can truly experience, the only thing that's real in this moment is right now. And the rest of it is made up of thought. So I'm hoping that this helps people kind of see the past a little bit differently. I'm hoping it helps people to let go of some of those difficult feelings and those difficult stories they like to tell themselves. I'm hoping that it's a helpful lecture for you to listen to. I can't wait to add some more content. I'm looking forward to see what Dr. M and Jeff can add to, and thank you so much for checking in.